All right, we're going to start the Planning and Development Committee meeting. If everyone can have their seats.
I'd had some changes to the minutes as
Yeah,
well.
I actually have them,
Okay,
so I'm happy to just
okay.
give them. The staff present should be Dave Stormback, and P2 should read that the
Yeah.
motion was, to hold was made by Councilmember Reed.
We're all present.
There are some that may be online.
No, I mean council members. No, we're all here. We're all here.
No.
And then any public comment? Anybody sign up online? That's not in person.
I have a whole bunch of people to go through, because they may be here and they may not be. So all of the ones in green, I've got them sorted by, so I can just give you names and then you can see them here.
All right, welcome to the Planning and Development Committee meeting. Today is Tuesday, September 27th, 2022. We do have a quorum, and so we will begin with approval of the August 8th minutes. If someone can motion approval.
Moved.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Nguyen, and then seconded by Councilmember Ravel. And do we have any changes, Councilmember Nusma?
Yeah, there were some changes. Ms. Flax,
There are two changes or corrections to the minutes. The staff present was Dave Stoneback, not Johanna Neiden. And P2 should read that the motion to hold was made by Councilmember Reed and seconded by Councilmember Nusma and approved unanimously. That correction will be made. Those corrections.
Can someone make those? Do we need an amendment?
Yeah, I'll
So somebody,
move it. I'll move the amendment. Is that, I just want to be clear, is that a violation of OMA that we're changing something that wasn't already on the,
No, you can amend the minutes that are properly on the agenda.
okay, we can amend stuff that's on
all
the
right, so
agenda.
the minutes have been amended by,
I've moved it and then it needs a second and a
yeah,
vote.
no, I know.
I'll second.
By Councilmember Reed and seconded by Councilmember Nusma. Any discussion? Seeing none, we're going to vote on the amended, or on the amendment, and then we'll vote on the minutes. So when you're ready, I guess I could do it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? All right, and then we still need a vote on the minutes as amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right, we have passed the minutes with unanimous support. Moving on to public comment. How do we want to start it?
Item, would that be best? Because
What do we have
if we go by
first?
P1, I think that what we should do is do the comments on P1 so that people here, in person, can do it first. I've got a couple of people here, and then we've got people online, and then we have, but I think we should explain that it's going to be first.
So do you want to move it first, or what do you want to do? Should we move it and second it and all that, and then allow public comment? Or public comment beforehand on item P1?
I would do the public
Comment
first,
first.
and then they can say, they can tell us what they're there for. Right.
So then we're just going to take, okay, so starting off with public comment, let's do public comment for those who want to speak to item P1 first, which is approval of vacation rental license for 2545 Lawndale Avenue, starting off with Charles Cross. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Charles W. Cross. I live at 3106 Central Street, and I and my family have lived there for 15 years. I'm also the president of the Townhome Association of 5 units, which is part of that, which is that development. And I speak on behalf of myself and at least 3 other members. I'm not sure if a 4th member has signed the petition or not, but 3 other of the members have signed the petition, which has been delivered to you. We are speaking in opposition to the granting of this license. The first thing that I would point out to the council is that the application itself fails to list an insurance policy unless the application has been amended. The application lists Hubbard 312 Insurance Company as providing an insurance policy for the dwelling unit. That's not an insurance company. They don't write policies in the state of Illinois. They are an insurance agency which tells people we can get you insurance. This information, if given in any court in the state of Illinois, or in the federal courts in the state of Illinois, or probably anywhere else in the United States, would be stricken and they'd be ordered to re-answer. We don't know what insurance company there is that provides insurance for this. We don't know what dates the policy is effective or the limits of the policy. That's simply not an answer. And so the petition to me is defective just because it's not providing the information about insurance. Notwithstanding that procedural failure, we feel that the committee has plenty of reasons to deny. First, this is a totally residential neighborhood. There are either owners or long-term renters living within 250 feet or 500 feet of this location. We all know that the prime market for the rental of such a location is the Northwestern football weekends. Our concern is house parties, rowdiness, noise, and worse, and that the owners are essentially absentee landlords. Although they list somebody who is going to be their local contact, what those people are going to do is come over to us after something's happened and say how sorry they are. We don't need that. The owners are not people that are going to have disruption in the middle of the night. We are.
Sir, you have about 30 seconds. Just wanted to give you a warning. Thank you.
I'll be done quick. They won't have property damage or injuries. We will. They won't be calling the police. We will. And we know that the Evanston Police Department's overworked already because of staffing shortages. They won't have to go to court repeatedly and sign complaints. We're the ones that are going to do this. This is all substantial adverse impact on our use enjoyment of our property as contemplated by the ordinance. Please don't inflict this on us, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your comment. Next up, Donald Brown.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I know that there are a number of people who want to speak. I will be brief this evening. I am here because we are opposing the issuance of this vacation rental license to this location, which has universally been panned by everybody in our neighborhood who has been advised about the circumstances. I know this is a committee meeting, and consequently, it is not where there's going to be a final vote on this matter. As a matter of fact, Ms. Williams told me just now that because the city clerk misplaced a petition that had some 50 signatures on it of neighbors of this property speaking against the issuance of this license, we could not proceed further tonight because that petition has to be assessed. But I'll be brief on this point. It is a public interest decision whether this type of license is issued. That's in the ordinance. It says public interest decision. And the city council, many of you were on the city council, has that opportunity to deny the issuance of this license if it's not in the public interest. I would submit to you that there should be a review by whomever is going to review the documentation that we have already provided, as well as the petition, that there's one overriding concept that makes a difference here. And that is the safety of the neighborhood. This is a neighborhood where there are many small children that play out in front of the homes. They go up and down the alley to play on their bicycles, tricycles, scooters, and everything else. They go to school up and down the alley. They go in the opposite direction to Bent Park up the alley. And this is a significant problem to have a 24-hour rental with people coming and going who are not part of the community. So if you look at each written submission that we have had, the word safety should jump out to you. And in this, the context is that the petition as well talks about safety. And the point is that without reason, we have been told that your committee is already, or the people who make up the other part of the committee have already recommended that this be passed. And their recommendation has in it that if there's a problem, the ordinance provides for the taking away the license or non-renewal of the license as a resolution. Well, I would suggest that if there is a real safety issue, which everybody in the neighborhood believes there is, and there's the type of problem that could occur, a small child being struck or whatever, or other problems similar to that, it's too late. And consequently, taking away the license or not renewing it is not a very good provision that this committee, in its recommendation, is implicitly making as the out, should there be a problem. Everybody in the neighborhood, you'll see the petition, is of this
If
opinion.
you could bring your comment to a close.
All right, and I apologize, but I expected to be able to talk to the city council tonight as well, but somehow.
You're talking to the city council. This is, everybody up here is a city council member.
Okay, but at the time we were going to vote. is
We
my
actually
point.
are. I think we have, and Sarah, who's our interim community development director, if you want to provide an update, I think we are able to discuss this and vote on it today. There's
We
been an
are able
update.
to move forward. We've been reviewing and checking the names on the petition, so it will move forward
Okay,
tonight.
well, thank you. I will basically say then, and wrap it up, that please take into account the attitude of the people in the neighborhood. This would be a bad precedent to set. Our neighborhood is very quiet, very calm. To have ins and outs of people coming and going is really not in line with the nature of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Call the name since you have a-
We have some people who are listed as being in person that we'll call in order. Jennifer Clark.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Again, my name is Jennifer. I am also a resident of the 2500 block of Lawndale and live about 5 houses away from where the proposed rental property is. I am also a mother of 2 smaller children who attend Willard and Haven, who are the ages of 9 and 11. As is previously mentioned by a couple of the other individuals that were neighbors, I do have concerns over the shorter-term vacation rental that is being proposed. I do want to state that my issue is not with rentals in general. I think longer-term rentals is a great opportunity for people to come in, utilize the property where there is a sense of community and getting to know the neighbors who are on our block. I think my issue is also of safety. Just knowing that it's going to be a little bit more of a transient nature where someone may be in and out of the rental in 24 hours, possibly a weekend. As also mentioned, there are several small children on that block. We all look out for each other and look out for the kids on that block. Many of them run into the street. And just, we know that it's a neighborhood of small children and a tight community, and just concerned about someone who may not have that understanding if they're just there temporarily for a day or two and maybe on a different page. So I think the other thing that is concerned is also potential noise level from people who are in, not for maybe a getaway, as sort of discussed in the proposal from the residents or the owners of the property, is more of a vacation rental, but could also be something that is utilized, again, more for social means, for football weekends, et cetera, who might be partying, loud noises, et cetera. And then I think my last concern too is just not having a landlord who's in the neighborhood. So if there is an issue, that we can get a hold of someone, whether it's an issue with the property itself or whoever is renting, and just not understanding who is that person who's going to be on site or local to attend to any issues that arise. So thank you for your time. I appreciate your consideration.
Charles Logan.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Chuck Logan, and my wife Ellie and I have lived at 2526 Lawndale for 44 years. The 2500 block of Lawndale consists of 24 single-family homes, 3 rental apartments, and 3 condos. Over the years, houses have been rented, condos have been rented, and there has been no issue. But they've all been rented for like periods of a year. In the experience that I've had with VRBOs, when we've traveled, has been that we've usually stayed in somebody's house, and the owner was either in the premises or in the building next door, and if there was an issue, you could go to them. But this proposal today is suggesting that there are parents who are quite elderly and live in the Mather home are going to be the recipients of our phone calls if there's an issue. And I can't imagine a 90-year-old guy receiving a phone call at 11:30 at night that, hey, there's some noise or there's some drinking in the backyard. I guess my question to you is, who do we call? Do we call the police department, or do we call this guy over at the Mather? Just as an aside, I had a phone call today from a friend of mine from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and he was telling me, we were talking about this issue, and he said the city just passed an issue that they will not permit a VRBO unless the owner is on premises. With that in mind, I think we should do the same thing. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your comment. Julianne?
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to address the Planning and Development Committee. My name is Julie Friend. I live at 2534 Lawndale Avenue with my spouse, Ed Walsh, who could not be here tonight. I am here to oppose the vacation rental license request for 2534 Lawndale, which is just a few houses away from us. I want to first stress, like my neighbor Jen, that we are not opposed to having long-term rental properties in the neighborhood. We are well aware of the lack of rental homes in Evanston neighborhoods for individuals and families who are not in a position to purchase a home, and encourage the city's efforts to improve those opportunities. However, in this case, the homeowners who live in California have disclosed in a letter to residents that they purchased the property in order to have ready housing while visiting their aging parents who currently reside in the Mather downtown. But they hope to rent the unit out between visits to offset the cost of taxes and upkeep. While I empathize with the homeowner's circumstances, I too have aging parents who live in another state. The benefit and convenience to the individual homeowner will be detrimental to the many homeowners on the block, and especially to the nearby neighbors in the form of reduced parking, increased traffic, and subsequent safety concerns, particularly for the many small children in our neighborhood, and the potential for disruptive noise and activity associated with Northwestern athletic events, given the likelihood that prospective renters would choose this particular property for its proximity to the 201 and/or Ryan Field. Absent from the letter by the homeowners was their plans for the property once the unfortunate day arises when their parents, disclosed as age 89 and 90, are no longer with us? Will the property be sold, or will it become a year-round vacation rental that is rarely, if ever, used by the homeowners? I am concerned that the homeowner's intent is to obtain a full-time future income-generating activity for its absentee owners, packaged in a contemporary explanation of family concern and convenience, and therefore urge you to vote no on this application. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. John Quayle.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to comment tonight. I've been an Evanston resident for 18 years. I live at 2535 Ridgeway, and I've lived there for the past 15 years. I echo all the safety concerns that my neighbors have said here tonight. I won't reiterate those, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about something that's important to me and my family, and that's affordable housing and the impact of especially non-owner occupied, as the previous commenter mentioned, short-term rentals. The Carnegie Mellon University Tepper School of Business released a study in the fall of 2021, and the Harvard Business Review published a paper by Baron Kung and Proserpio in 2019 that both found that non-owner occupied short-term rentals have a negative impact on the supply of long-term rental units and therefore increase rent for local residents, which is a problem facing many Evanstonians right now. The last thing we need is more pressure on our limited supply of rental housing. To further this issue, on the City of Evanston website, it highlights a missing middle group of housing. It says these houses are modest bungalows, duplexes, triplexes, and row houses. These properties are often the most desirable for development as short-term rentals, but they're also very desirable for affordable housing and increasing affordable housing stock. And this house is one of those kinds of properties. Finally, in the previous meeting I was watching in the ante room, there was a lot of talk about revitalizing downtown business. The Orrington Hotel was purchased in 2015 for $60 million. It was sold in 2022 for $34 million. The last thing Evanston downtown hotels and downtown business needs is to move those customers out into the neighborhoods where there aren't services, there aren't restaurants. It's not like downtown. As a community, we need to have the taxes in the hotel industry survive in our city, and these kinds of moves will not help that become sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you. Nicole Weinecker online is also making a public comment to this item. Nicole, are you there? Nicole Weinecker?
Yes, hi, yes,
Nope.
I'm here. Yes, Warniker, hi. Good evening. Seems to see you all. Thank you for listening to me. Live at 2541 Lawndale Avenue. I am directly next to the house that is going to be, is asking for this rental property. I live here with my husband and my two children, who just turned 5 and 8, who are often playing outside. One of the people mentioned playing outside our front yard, sometimes in the alley if their soccer ball runs into there, right, running across the street. So the concern I have is fully around safety and the transient nature of just strangers coming in and out of the property area, parking situation, just not paying attention to the community, the traffic here. Are where my concerns really lie. When I moved here, people don't leave Lawndale. This is a block that people invest in their homes, in their houses. They stay on the block. It's a long-time community. There has been rentals. We're not opposed to long-term rentals, but having this kind of transient in and out is just not sufficient and a high concern from a safety issue. And then I do, have a lot of concerns. Again, the property owner is not here. They bought this house for their aging parents, 89 and 90, and then said that those are the parents that somebody would call if there's an issue. So lots of concerns. If something is happening, who are they going to call, right? What is going to happen? So again, big concern is on safety. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is Lisa Berlsheimer, also online. I got the name right?
Hi, good evening. My name is Lisa Berlsheimer, and I'm here with my husband, Steve Galliano, and we're here to talk about getting your support for us to use our home as a vacation rental. I grew up in Evanston, and I love this city. My son just graduated with his master's degree from Northwestern, and my daughter moved here in July and is currently working at Park School in District 65. She would be there this evening with you if it weren't for a mandatory training that she's attending, and she will be at the city council meeting. I grew up in South Evanston, and my parents have lived in Evanston since 1962. 60 years later, they're currently at the Mather, as you've heard, and my parents have been extremely active members in the community. We purchased a condo in 2018 to be able to spend more time here with my folks, and my husband enjoys it here so much he was eager for us to buy a second property. We do live in Southern California. However, I'm retiring as a speech and language pathologist from the public schools in June, and we plan to then be at the property in Lawndale as our next home. We're asking for permission from the city to approve our vacation rental application to help us defray the cost of the mortgage and the property taxes until we are able to move here. Using sources like Airbnb and VRBO, we're able to screen the individuals who would be staying in our home. It is our home. We do plan to live there and don't want anything to happen to it. We've spoken to others that have rented their properties through Airbnb with great success, and we know that there are safety procedures set up through these companies to protect our property. We do have an insurance policy. I heard the question earlier, and if anybody needs a policy number or dates of our policy, I can absolutely provide that for the city. Furthermore, when we post our listing, we are able to state things such as the number of registered guests allowed, house rules such as no parties and no pets, and we do have these things established, and just working on and setting a higher daily rate to assure the quality of the renters. There's not a lot of hotel options in Evanston, and so that's why we've seen that there are Airbnbs around. Our daughter Michelle lives 2 miles away and is our property manager. She was mentioned as well as my father in the application. In addition, we have outdoor cameras installed to monitor the property. We have seen that there are other homes in Evanston that there are on Airbnb, and have not heard from the city that there have been any problems other than one incident a while back. For the past 3 years, we spend the months of June and July here, and we also do come in town every few months during the school year. So we're looking forward to spending more time in our great city. Thank you.
All right, and then I believe Mr. Gagliano has a comment for us as well. All right.
Yeah, hi. My name is Steve Galliano, and I'm here tonight to talk about our property on 2545 Lawndale. We were asking for approval for application to our property available for a vacation rental. We live in Southern California, and this is our second home in Evanston. Our daughter Michelle lives in the condo on Sherman Avenue, and she will be the manager of the property. So any problems, the people can get directly with her. We have been diligent in following the steps and the procedures the city has required in order for us to obtain the license. Our home has been inspected and approved by the city. To answer some concerns that have risen, we want to assure you that we have chosen VRBO and Airbnb sites to advertise our property because their sites have strict regulations and policies. We would have accounts set up so that we would personally be approving those who request to stay at our home. We are limiting our registered guests. We will also limit number of cars to 2, and renters can use the driveway and the garage. So there should be no street parking. We have established a relationship with our neighbors, and they have contact numbers as well with us and our daughter. Thank you very much.
Olympia is also online, if you can hear us. Olympia Pawn, I believe. Is Olympia with us? Is she online? Going once, going twice? Okay. Is that it?
We're going to have Liz bring up the petition.
Okay, and then we have a petition.
Okay.
What is that?
Just in case you see there's
A timer? Oh, yeah. So we have one more public comment. We don't know the name, though. I think
The father of the applicant is here. I'm sorry, we didn't
Okay.
get your name, please.
please. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. I am the able 90-year-old.
I see. I was going to ask you. I said, is this the 90-year-old they mentioned?
Yes, I am
look great.
Carl Berlsheimer.
All right.
I am Lisa's father. I live in Evanston, as you've heard. I live at the Mather. My family moved here in 1962, and we have owned 2 houses, a condominium, and now we own an apartment at the Mather. We have been here 60 years. We chose to live in Evanston and raise our family here. We have been active in our community in many ways. For example, I served on the board and as chair of the Evanston Community Foundation. I have done many other actions in Evanston. My wife, Diane, was chair of every PTA that our children attended, among the other things she did, like serving on the boards of the YWCA. Lisa is our 4th child. She was born in Evanston, and she attended public schools here. She and her husband, Steve, as you know, own the condominium on Sherman Avenue and a townhouse at 2545 Lawndale. They love Evanston. Lisa and Steve desire to be able to rent their townhouse using Airbnb to help defray the cost of owning it, as you've heard. Their daughter, Michelle, lives in the condominium on Sherman Avenue, and she is employed by School District 65. She is 24 years old, and she is the one who would respond. I could probably also respond. I'm quite able. I'm still driving, et cetera, et cetera. Lisa and Steve are very proud of the Lawndale property, and they have made many improvements to it since they purchased it last year, including a very lovely fence that includes a very, very nice side yard. They will be very careful renting it, and they want to list it with Airbnb because of Airbnb's standards, and they will require their tenants to abide by that. I think they will be wonderful neighbors, and the comments that have been made, I think, are all what-ifs, fear-mongering, and if you listen to them, then you would never issue anybody an Airbnb license in Evanston. So that's all I have to say. Thank you, and I hope you'll approve it.
Thank you, sir. And if I can have someone move P1, we're going to take this item first, and then we'll go back to public comment for item P2. I believe we have about 5 committee members who want to make a public comment, but if we can move P1.
Yeah, I'll move approval of, well, just for discussion, but I'll move, or the reason I made this motion, I'll move approval of a vacation rental license for 2545 Lawndale.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded, and we have, we'll start off with Councilman Reed for discussion.
Yeah, so I thank the neighbors and the able 90-year-old for coming out and sharing, their thoughts on this. I do want to get clarification on something because if in fact, 2 questions. One, I just want to make sure that we have it was understood that there was a petition submitted. Can I just get clarification from the clerk on that petition?
Yeah, there's a petition, and I'll pass it down so you can see it. And as far as I can tell, it's about 45 people in opposition who.
So it seems as though the petition wasn't lost. We have a petition.
We have
so
a petition.
We're in a
and
good
it's-
place.
It seems like it's mostly people on Lawndale Avenue and Central Street, and I only say that because sometimes with petitions, it's people that
Yeah,
live in
yeah,
Chicago
all over,
somehow,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
these are all.
And the clerk, I think,
all community
verified
neighbors.
and you can
Yeah,
maybe speak for it.
I actually received the petition today. I had not received it before today. And I verified the signatures. There is 31% verified signatures that oppose to this being passed. So that is over the threshold that we have, opposition to this amendment.
Okay, thank you. And sorry, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I do have a quick question. How do we typically, or maybe Attorney Ruggie can answer this, how do we typically validate the signatures? Is it just saying that, yes, this address and the name matches, or what do we?
Yeah, so all of the homes that are noticed, the clerk's office receives a list of every single home that is notified with the property owner or the person who is currently living there. And we take that information and we verify the signatures. And then we also use, internally, we'll go in and use our like taxpayer roll or water bill, things like that to verify that the person indeed does own the property. But the list that that I use from our development and community development is a list that they have already also themselves went through that process of verifying. So we just use two methods. I use that list, and then we also use the internal.
So it's double verified. All right. Thank you. And then that's my only question for you. So we have a petition. It's been received. You've done your job. And then for the law department, or whoever can answer this, or maybe Sarah, whoever, since we have this petition and it's been verified and 30-some-odd% of neighbors have signed it, what does that mean? Does that mean that does our ordinance say that we are essentially to deny this?
You can just give me 1 second.
Okay, yeah. Can anyone answer that? What does this petition mean?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say it does not mean that is automatic denial. That doesn't sound consistent with.
Does it mean there's and I know, or a increased vote threshold? Because I was a former clerk, and I know that I don't know about this.
Threshold.
Yeah, and so I know for other issues, never dealt with the vacation rental license, but did deal with plan developments and other petitions that came in, and I know that if there's a petition signed of, I think it's 50% plus one of the homeowners that live within 500 feet, and in other cases, it's 1,000 feet, depending on the kind of development, that it increases the vote threshold to 2/3, I think it is, to supermajority. And so I'm curious if that is the case here, or if there's, what's built into the ordinance that, drove these folks to take time to go out and collect all of these signatures from neighbors. And if just so we can move along, just really quick, if one of the folks who went out and collected this, what was your reasoning for collecting it in like 3 or 4 words, if you had? Yeah.
First off, I delivered that on September 12th here.
Well, I don't want to go into that because we have it and it's here. I'm just asking.
The purpose was to show that the majority of the people living in close proximity to that address were opposed to.
So it wasn't based on your understanding of the ordinance or some other reason. It was just a general petition to.
Based on my understanding of the ordinance, if you look at the document at the top, there's language parroted from the ordinance. People sign on to that statement.
And what was your understanding of the effect of people signing on?
My understanding of the effect would be to try to impress upon the voters what the sentiment of the neighborhood.
Okay. Yeah.
Who shows up here.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I was trying to understand, again, with, plan developments and others, there is, a petition like this can sometimes influence the vote threshold, and so I just wanted to have clarity if that's the case here, so we know, if we're doing things by the book, and to look out for the residents who took the time out to get this petition, whether, I support it or not, this would have some implications if that's the case. That rests my comments.
Any other questions?
It seems, I'm sorry, Ms.
Do we have
Ruggie
a
was ready to
answer?
go.
Yeah. Council Ruggie.
Thank you, Chair Burns. Alex Ruggie, Assistant City Attorney. So I did review the vacation rental ordinance, and this is in our health code. It's not, there is no petition built into the ordinance, so there aren't any voting requirements. It doesn't change the percentage of the vote required. So I believe.
For zoning amendments.
Yeah,
Oh.
it doesn't
For
follow
zoning
like
amendments.
zoning amendments.
So we didn't have to validate these signatures, or?
What I was told is, here's a petition. I validate that those people live within the boundary. I am not sure whether or not the vacation rental license requires a zoning amendment or not. That is not my department.
What boundary? Just
So for me, I am not sure if the vacation license, according to our city, requires a zoning amendment. If it does, then that is, I think, the impression that this
500.
group is
Okay.
under. If it doesn't, then
Okay. Well, wonderful. We have a petition. I'm sorry. Yeah. Thank
I'll
you.
email you the ordinance.
Okay. Thank you
Any
for
other
clarification.
comments, questions? I think Councilmember Revelle was first, and then we'll go Newsma. But Councilmember Revelle, you have the floor.
So I guess I'm interested in whether staff can tell us whether, what experience have we been having in the last, 3 years, 4 years that we've had this vacation rental system in place? What kind of experience are we having with neighbors' satisfaction or not?
Sure. Thank you. For the record, Liz Williams, Planning Manager with the Community Development Department. So to date, we have approximately 20 vacation rental licenses that have been issued within the city of Evanston. Speaking with our building services manager, I'm not aware of any compliance issues at those particular sites. With that said, there may have been, neighbor-initiated complaints to the police department, but before this meeting, I was not made aware of any.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that our ordinance does require the homeowner to notify the neighbors of the desire to make it a short-term rental. So we do have some intent to listen to the neighbors. Otherwise, we just say, is the building in good shape and is it okay?
In this instance, it's a 250-foot notification radius to the surrounding property owners, correct?
Yeah. And then we talk about, the memo mentions a procedure that's in place if there's a problem. Is that just the normal, if police are called and it becomes a problem, then we...
Correct, yes. There's a specific section of the ordinance that was adopted that deals with revocation of a permit if issues, or a license if issues do arise. I believe that's at the discretion of the city manager. If those complaints do arise, they have the authority to revoke the license from the property.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really torn because I'm hearing a big, really an impressive number of neighbors who are concerned about this. I also listen to the family that are planning to move back and make that their home very soon. So it doesn't sound like we're looking at making this a permanent vacation rental property. So anyway, that's just thoughts going through my head at the moment.
Councilmember Newsma.
Thank you, Chair Burns. And I was kind of pursuing a similar line of reasoning to Councilmember Revelle. It's approximately 20 licensed vacation rentals in town at the moment. And just looking at the Airbnb website, looks like a handful, maybe 2 or 3 in the 4th Ward that have not been a problem, to my knowledge at least. There is a rental in the 2nd Ward that I was aware of that had one problem with a party that was a couple of years ago, but I haven't heard anything since. And so, I'm hearing the neighbors and the concern about potential problems and, want to validate that with the reality and have we had problems with Airbnbs in town? And with that one exception, I'm not aware of any. But there's not that many in the Fourth Ward. Looking at the Airbnb map, it looks like there are several, big handful in the Ninth Ward. So I'm wondering if Councilmember Hadikotis has had any feedback one way or the other on Airbnbs.
I've not heard any complaints or from any residents in the Ninth Ward.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yeah, so I think we've heard loud and clear from the community around this house, and this would be clearly undermining that particular community. I don't think this is in the interest of this neighborhood, and I think we should respect the residents. There's a huge difference between an owner-occupied rental, a vacation rental, or an Airbnb. I know plenty of Evanstonians that in order to make it affordable to continue to live in Evanston, they've had to create an Airbnb in their home in order to remain here, really about affordability. The woman who spoke, in fact, said that they were setting a high rate to ensure the quality of the renters. No comment on the last part, but the point is there's nothing about affordability here, and it's only going to, again, I think, undermine the overall culture of the neighborhood if it's owner-occupied. I mean, this is not owner-occupied, so the people that would be living there don't have a commitment to the neighbors. It's entirely different. If it is a rental, long-term rental, people who rent are, become neighbors and help, create the fabric of that neighborhood. I can't support this. I wouldn't want to live next to a vacation rental VRBO with absentee landlords. So I hope we can all think about what that would be like. It's certainly, and I agree with the gentleman who spoke to affordability. This is doing absolutely nothing. It's doing quite the contrary to affordability. In fact, I think I saw that it's already being advertised right now as a vacation home online, if I'm not mistaken. For 300.
All right, any other comments? Is there one more? Oh, Councilmember Reed.
Yeah, thank you. I hear Councilmember Kelly's point about, the language there, although sometimes we do that without saying it. So, at least they're straightforward about their intentions. I just spoke to some of the neighbors there who were a little maybe confused because the letter that they received, so to clarify, this is a temporary license, right? No, so this is a temporary license. No, this is a permanent license.
So they would be required to renew their license annually. So you would be authorizing them to receive the license, and then it's up to the property owner and through our process to have them renew that annually.
Okay, that's helpful to know, and I think that maybe clarifies. I see. I'll refrain for now, or stop for now, and then Councilmember Hadikotis is.
Councilmember Hadikotis.
So if I can ask the family whose property that is, so it sounds like you folks, like the owners will be moving back in June, July? That's what I understood from public comment?
Yes, well, that we'll be spending more time there, yes. We have grandchildren here in California, and so we'll be going back and forth, but we will be spending much more time at the property on Lawndale after I retire in June, yes.
Okay, maybe, sorry. If I can.
Real quick, Councilmember Newsman, then we'll go back.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So a question about the renewal process is once the issue or once the license is issued, is the renewal automatic, or is there any opportunity to kind of reconsider the impact on the neighborhood?
So it wouldn't be re-reviewed by the city council for the renewal process. That would be an administrative renewal. And it is annually, and yes, based on the date of their initial license issuance.
But is there any discretion that the staff member has to not renew the license if the council member of that ward reports problems, for example?
Absolutely. I mean, in the ordinance for the vacation rental licenses, which is in Title 4, there is a process set up for revoking, suspending, and also penalties if they're not operating it in compliance with our code. So there are, ways to reevaluate this if there are issues that do arise. Built into the code.
Thank you. And for the record, yeah, I am sympathetic. Yeah, you're good. Sympathetic to the affordable housing argument. However, if we're going to pursue that argument, this is a different conversation altogether about revising our strategy as a whole. It does not apply to this particular incident because the applicant is applying for something which is legally allowable under current code.
Yeah, if I could clarify my statement previously, there is also in code, if a police call is made or there are building code violations, it's automatically not eligible for renewal. They would have to reapply. So if there are calls to the police department at this property, they do not just automatically get to renew their license. They would have to come and reapply.
The license would not be revoked just by one call to the police, however.
And it's a citation issued by the police department, not just a call.
Okay, right. Okay, but they would be able to hold their license and maintain their license for a year.
Yes, and there are certain procedures that the city manager can pursue a revocation of the license. So because there's a license issued, we do have to issue notice of a revocation and then have a hearing in order to take it. But if there are issues, the city manager can begin those revocation procedures.
Right. But worst case scenario, if there's a huge party in month 1, by the time the license expires in month 12, they would have to reapply for the license, assuming a citation had been issued.
That's correct.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Councilman Reed.
Yeah, I have, one question for staff. And is this, so if I wanted to, if I had a single-family home that I lived in, so even if I wanted to rent a room in my house, like an Airbnb, I would have to go through this process?
No, if you are living in the premises and it's your primary structure, it's an administrative review. Those do not go to city council. It's only when it's a non-owner occupied vacation rental that the city council would issue or approve the license request.
And I think I heard Lisa, who's one of the owners, say that she plans on moving here in June, and this will be presumably her primary residence or one of her.
And just to cut in, because I want to move this along, not having owner-occupied B&B is a legitimate model for these type of businesses. Whether you support it or not, I just want to be clear on that because we keep going back to, they don't need to be, they don't need to live there in order for this to be a legitimate.
No, I know. My question relating to that is to have an understanding of, and so the neighbors also have an understanding of what is coming down the line. So if they would just have the right in a few months to just kind of do this without having to go through this huge process, so if it's going to essentially happen in June if they want to anyhow, that just is, I think, something good for us and the community to have an understanding of. I hear the concerns of the neighbors, and I haven't had a chance to speak with Councilmember Suffredin, whose ward this is in. And he's indicating that because of the support of the neighbors that, or the opposition, I should say, of the neighbors, that he doesn't support this. So I will. It is Councilmember Suffredin's ward, and these are his voters that he's responsible to, and so I will kind of give some give some aldermanic prerogative to Councilmember Sufferton and deal with issues in his ward. I guess to close out, I'll say if you all want to buy some property in the 8th Ward and then rent it out, we might be an area that would be welcoming to that and happy to put something that's maybe not on the tax rolls back on the tax rolls. And it's a beautiful, beautiful neighborhood. Thank you.
Councilmember Kelly.
I just wonder, is it currently being rented now? Are there people in the, what is the house used for right now? Can anybody answer that?
Can I answer that?
Sure.
Am
Yes.
I allowed
Thank
to
you.
answer that?
Yes.
Yeah, no, they're currently vacant. We've had family members and friends that have stayed there. It's listed on Airbnb, but all the dates are blacked out. So we did have it listed on there, but in anticipation of getting the approval. So we have all the dates blocked out through November. And I think beyond that, just in hopes that it will get approved, but it is on there, but it's not available. So it's vacant right now. We will be there in October. And we'd love to talk to anybody when we're there, but this is our home.
Thank
And
you.
we are invested as our home.
They had some family members stay there over the weekend. They had Kentucky license plate a week ago, so they are apparently, must be a big family.
Any other comments, Councilmember
So
Kelly?
I just want to say, I don't think at any point anyone said they were going to move back into this place permanently. I think there's been some misunderstandings. Like nobody, this was never anyone's intention to make this a permanent home of this family. I mean, to visit, I understand, and I understand it's a great use to be able to have a house to come and stay in when you're visiting family members. But I just want to clarify that.
Any other
There was
comments?
never-
If I could just quickly get clarification from Lisa on that point.
Yeah, there was never anywhere where an opportunity where we were able to say that. So it was never asked of us, but that's been our intention. But I don't know that that would have come up on the application.
Okay, so I'm going to make a quick comment if we don't have any others, and then we'll.
Well, I have
call
one
a
last,
vote.
and then we'll go for staff. And I'm so sorry, Liz,
Williams.
and you're fairly new, right, to your role as a zoning administrator
I'm the planning and zoning manager.
Okay. So how do we verify if someone lives? How do we verify whether someone lives in the unit or not? So if they were bad actors, let's say, and they came in and they just said, "Hey, this is owner occupied," how do we validate whether they're telling the truth or not?
We look at the tax records, so, where they're receiving their tax bill, the water bills. If it's going to an out-of-state mailing address, that would be one indication to us that it is not the primary residence. We could also ask for additional verification if that's a requirement in the future. But that's not the request that's been made by them at this point.
Sure, I'm just curious how that works and how we validate that under the ordinance. All right, that's my question.
Just quickly, I think. Yes.
I'd like to introduce my granddaughter, Michelle Villa, who
How you doing?
was the person who would contact in the event of any problem. She's here.
I take care of the home while it's vacant.
Okay. I appreciate that. So this type of stuff always makes me a little uncomfortable because I'm someone that I want to be able to look at something so that I can apply this fairly and evenly in all similar situations. And that's what I'm struggling with right now. I think when you start to get into situations where, aldermen or even, or council members or whether one or more are making decisions outside of kind of clear guidelines that we can apply in other situations, it gets real icky, old school style politics to me, frankly. And so I'm looking for okay, so what's the concern that I can point to and say, okay, you know what, this it's not a good fit here. I had a similar situation when it came up that somebody wanted a liquor license in the 5th Ward, the ward I represent, and I, had strong community opposition, but there also was a larger issue in the community that was driving that opposition, which was there was a lot of underage drinking and actual known recorded calls about, drinking in backyards and playing games and all of that. Like it's an area of the Fifth Ward where a lot of that takes place. And so those two things combined, I was able to say, you know what, at least for me, I can't support this. I'm searching for a reason not to support this based on something that has actually happened, events that have actually occurred at this property. And that's what I'm not hearing that from the group. Is it a property owner that has had an issue maintaining the property, or has had an issue, with not, sticking to, our local codes when they were occupying the property or had someone renting the property. I am sensitive to, I think there's a point where we can have too many vacation rentals. And so a question, I guess, for staff is, out of the 20, how many are kind of located in this area? Because that is something I will be concerned about. I am somebody, if folks know me, that is I would consider myself a strong advocate for affordable housing. And I think in the Fifth Ward, what we're seeing in certain areas, literally like on the same block, we have 4 or 5 vacation rentals. Some are registered. It's also been reports that others are not. So again, if there was like a proliferation of rentals on one block in one area, that will be a concern. So I guess I'll hold there for your response, Liz. Thank you.
Yes, so in this instance, there are no licensed vacation rentals within the immediate proximity of this request, so.
And so for me, and we'll call a vote next, I want to move this forward to our full council, because I want everyone, all of us, all 9 of us, to have an opportunity to hear from the neighbors. But again, if this is something that we just are not going to support anywhere throughout the city, then if there's a majority of support for that, then I would, that is the democratic way, I think, to make this decision. But I think by adopting this policy or allowing this, we've stated, I wasn't on that council, but previous administrations have stated that this is an allowable use of property in the city. And if we want to change that, I think we should. And I want to hear from my colleagues about whether or not they want to change that and no longer allow vacation rentals. So I'm going to support moving it forward, just to continue the discussion and see what my colleagues feel about this. But it still needs a vote. So we're going to hold conversation for now, and we're going to take a vote on it. And we should do a roll call on this. Sarah, if you could walk us through that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Councilmember Cargaris?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
No.
Councilmember Revelle?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Nusma?
Aye.
Councilmember Wynn? Councilmember Kelly?
No.
What was it?
Vote is it?
Was it 8?
Yeah.
What was the final? Just so I can say it.
5-2.
Okay, with a 5-2 vote, this will be forwarded to City Council. Okay, so we have, next up, we have item P2, I believe. If somebody can move consideration of item P2.
I move item P2, and this is coming to council tonight, folks. So I'm just, I move item P2, ordinance 96022, 97022, and 98022, extending the time to obtain a building permit for the construction of the planned development located at 1012 Chicago Avenue and 1900 Sherman Avenue and 1605 Davis.
Second.
We have, I'm trying to find my,
Do we have a?
yeah, we do. We have some citizen comment, or all is video.
What's the first one? Is it
First one is Wynn Graham.
Somebody can move consideration of item P2.
Can I speak right now?
Move.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, yes,
And this is coming.
for that ordinance, I ask you to please vote.
Point of information, you might want to turn off, if you're watching on YouTube or somewhere else. 9722 and 98022, extending the time to obtain a building permit for the
You know, I'm
construction
getting
of the
feedback.
planned
Oops.
development located at 1012 Chicago Avenue and 1900 Sherman Avenue.
Oh.
And,
Do you want to go to someone else?
You're
and I'll
watching
try
on the
and fix
screen
it?
behind you, I think. I see a TV behind you that might have this on, so you just want to turn off whatever other device you're using to watch the
Have
meeting.
some citizen comment or?
So while she does that, if we can move on to
Yes.
Sue Loback.
First one is Win Graham.
It's not the TV, it's on my screen, on my screen.
Okay, so hello, everybody. I'm Sue Lolbach. I am with Joining Forces for Affordable Housing, a program of connections for the homeless. And we know that there are some residents who are not happy with some of these developments that are under consideration tonight. But we hope that you will quickly approve the extensions for the building permitting. Just as it's taken a toll on many sectors in our community, the pandemic has taken a toll on anyone developing any property, and extensions are being required across the country. Developers of non-traditional buildings like the Emerson already have significant obstacles to approval that delay projects and increase expenses. But the 3 projects up tonight, including the Emerson, have already been vetted and approved. They've jumped through a lot of hoops. We don't see any reason that additional obstacles should be put in their way. In particular, the affordable units that will come with the Hack building and the inclusionary units in the Chicago Avenue building are particularly critical right now. Housing prices are soaring, poverty is increasing, and the number of people who are homeless is growing as a result. We ask that you consider the extensions requested as a natural result of the pandemic and allow them so that these developers can move forward with their work. Thank you.
Win Graham, if you want to try again to make your public comment.
I'm very sorry about that.
No worries.
And I support what Susan Lolbach just said. I am especially concerned about delaying the 1900 Sherman building, which will be a valuable asset to the older adults in the city of Evanston. The project has been approved and delays will increase the cost of construction. We look forward to this project being developed as planned. Time is of the essence for those of us in the older population to get that building up. Thank you.
Bonnie Wilson.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Wilson. I'm been a real estate agent in Evanston for over 38 years, and I'm also a senior real estate specialist. So for me, this is so important to continue these extensions for these buildings, especially the 1900 Sherman building. As I mentioned to you on November 9th, 2020, the Sawgrass study confirmed the unmet need for more affordable, independent living units at multiple income levels, including for seniors at 80% to 120% of the area median income. So I encourage you to continue to extend these developments, which have already been approved. And please note, let's not further delay any of these developments because we need them so badly in Evanston. As a real estate agent, I have many clients who would be, who I know would love to live in these apartments. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up is Gail Schechter. Oh, no? Different item? Okay, sorry about that. Is that it then? Bonnie Wilson is the last one? Okay. Did we move?
Yeah.
We can vote now.
Okay, any other discussion, or are we ready for a vote? Ready for a vote? Okay. We can do let's do a roll, yeah.
Councilmember Kargaris?
Aye.
Councilmember Revelle?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Nusma?
Aye.
Councilmember Wynn? Councilmember Kelly?
Okay, that P2 is approved. We're going to move on to item P3. If we can have a motion for item P3, please.
Mr. Chair, I move item P3, ordinance 90-0-22, text amendment to the zoning ordinance modifying restaurant regulations in the MXE district.
Second.
All right, it's been probably moved and seconded. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of this indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right, the ayes have it. Moving on to P4. Can someone motion approval of P4?
Mr. Chair, I move item P4, ordinance 53-0-22, amending City Code Title VI to add billboards as a special use when within a certain distance to train tracks.
All right, it's been probably moved. Is there a second? All right, it's been probably moved and seconded. We'll start off discussion with Councilmember Nguyen.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once again, I am opposed to billboards here in Evanston. I think that they're visual pollution. As we learned the last time this issue came before us, the city does not have any ability to control what's put up on a billboard, and that's an additional concern to me, besides the visual pollution of it all. I've heard from many people in the last few days who are opposed to billboards, and including it to within a certain distance of railroad tracks is really subjecting all of our residents who live near the railroad tracks to the visual pollution. And I have a billboard in the 3rd Ward that directly faces a very nice condominium building, and they have to put up with whatever it is that appears on that billboard, looking out their front windows all the time. I think the other thing that I'd like to note is that the other place that we have a collection of billboards is in the 5th Ward along the railroad tracks. And I have since spoken to former Alderman Holmes about this issue. She worked hard to try and eliminate billboards, as I have worked hard to try and eliminate billboards along the railroad tracks for a number of years, and we were unsuccessful. So we have the ones we have that we have to live with because we can't get rid of them, but I certainly hope that we don't add more. Thank you.
Councilmember Suffolk, and we'll allow him to.
I appreciate it. I was just going to say, and I'm not sure where Pat is, but this is a request of a business owner in your ward. Business owner in your ward is the one making this request. I just want to make sure that you're
I have not heard from that.
clear on that. So, again, this doesn't authorize anything immediately. Everything would have to come back to the council for approval. It's a special use. But I just want you to be clear that this request came from Pat Fowler at Firehouse.
And I would have had a discussion with Pat about this and told him why I'm opposed.
Yeah, I'm just giving you a heads up on it. But anyway, I mean, that's what it comes down to. Do we want to give business owners this tool in their toolbox, and that's it? There's no, the door's wide open. This is still a special use. It would still come to this council or councils after us. It's, one of the common complaints for business owners is that we don't do things to make their lives easier. This is a potential thing that can make life easier for business owners, and that's what it comes down to. So that's all. I appreciate the indulgence.
Yep. Councilmember Newsma.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was on the fence about this before. The reasons that Councilmember Sufferton stated, do resonate with me. However, I'm going to oppose this. The Land Use Commission has unanimously recommended opposition. I've heard from other stakeholders and other 4th Ward residents over the last few days. So I'm going to vote nay on this particular one. Thanks.
Councilmember Revelle.
So this would make it a special use. I'm not sure what the criteria would be, whether to say yes or no to a special use request for a billboard. And even in that special use process, I'm assuming we still wouldn't be able to address the content of the billboard. That's because that's a state law says content is whatever someone wants to put up there. So I can't support this either.
All right, any other comments? I said last time that I think the not being able to control the content is the most concerning thing about this for me. Outside of that, I don't have any real concerns if it was narrowly focused in areas not like what we see in the 5th Ward, where it is not only facing the tracks, but it's facing traffic going both ways. So I want to be clear, like I never supported that. What I understood we were considering in this particular with this particular item is something that would only be facing the tracks, that would only be viewed by passengers of on trains, and that's something that I certainly could live with, and that I don't think would would add to the harm that people have described. Still concerned about content. I think where we left off at the last conversation is that really will be up while we can't as a council regulate content, that the business owner can. And why in a place like Evanston would they want to allow something to be put on the billboard that they can regulate, that they didn't feel like was appropriate and in accordance with what their customers would expect. So similar to the last issue, I mean, I'm comfortable moving this forward to the full council to take a look at, but I certainly understand all the arguments against it. I think unless there's no other comments, we'll have a quick vote and see where it goes. And we'll do a roll call on this.
Councilmember Karakaris?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
I took someone's keys. Sorry. No.
Councilmember Ravel?
No.
Councilmember Burns?
Aye.
Councilmember Nusma?
No.
Councilmember Wynn? No. And Councilmember Kelly?
No.
The motion fails 2-5.
Okay, the motion fails. That will not move on to full council consideration. We are moving on to item, what are we at, P5 now? Is there a P5 or is that it? That is it? Okay. We are done seeing no more business before us. We're going to start city council.